Hello and welcome back to my Tony Hawk's Pro Skater Marathon, where today you join me for the third episode where we're going to be taking a look at Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for the PS2. I'm not even going to beat around the bush and I'm just going to come right out of the gate and say that this is one of my favourite games ever made, definitely in my top 10, so I guess get ready for a lot of praise. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 once again uses the exact same structure as the two previous games in the series, starting with a live action opening, this time to the tune of Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Then it throws you into a menu where you can access a variety of game modes and customization options. The menu this time is much more dynamic and interesting, being set against the backdrop of a skate shop where the menu options will transport you to new areas of the shop as if you're looking around it. This is awesome, and it shows that the production value was higher than ever. Yet again we have the ability to create our own skater, and this time, unlike in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, we can also create female characters, which was a feature strangely absent from the last game despite it having female representation in the form of Alyssa Steamer. But anyway, you know what that means, it's time for Created Skater or Realer Skater. All you need to do is tell me in the comments which one is the real me and which one is the in-game version, and if you get it right, you win nothing. Well, I guess you win a sense of self-satisfaction, but that's it. So which one was the real me? The one on the left or the one on the right? Let me know, because I can't tell. The Creator Skater mode here is actually one element of the game that I feel could have been quite a bit better. It doesn't feel much more expanded than what it was back in Pro Skater 2, and in some ways I actually felt like there was less here. For example, I couldn't give myself stubble in this one and had to go with either a full beard or nothing. You also don't unlock any new customization options like clothes or hairstyles by playing the game, which I feel was a huge missed opportunity. But hey, you can make a character that kinda, sorta resembles yourself, and that's all that matters. You of course also have the option here to customize all the usual stuff, like your skateboard deck, wheels, and your character's stat points too. And something new in Pro Skater 3 is the ability to change your grip tape for the top of your board, which is a nice touch. After that, you're ready to begin playing, and once again, the structure here is identical to Pro Skater 2. You pick a level and are given a list of objectives, and then are given 2 minutes to complete as many as possible. These objectives range from ones used across all of the levels, like collecting skate and getting the high, pro and sick scores, but this time there's much more interesting level-specific objectives than what's been previously seen in the series. For example, in Foundry, you have to grind the valves on the walls, which opens up a secret area at the back of the level. In Canada, you have to jump into a tree to knock the snow out of it, causing it to fall and bury a guy who's been bullying a group of kids. In Suburbia, you need to give this creepy thin man an axe so he can get into this haunted house. And then there's this in Airport where you need to stop a group of pickpockets. They're a bit stupid though, not only being dressed like stereotypical burglars, but also holding up the item they stole and running around with it like a madman. I did it! I stole the wallet! This is exactly what I wanted from the earlier Pro Skater games. No level feels repetitive or uninteresting anymore because there's always a ton of things to do and see. And I absolutely love how completing some of these objectives massively affects the layout of the level and opens up brand new areas, making them feel even more rewarding. Probably the best example of this is in Los Angeles, where you grind a set of rails which causes an earthquake, making a bridge collapse. Then you can get onto the bridge, grind a car to make it fall off and stop a group of criminals, travel the length of the bridge to get a secret tape, or go off in another direction and find another secret area with 2 vert ramps on a rooftop. These interactive elements featured in every single level are fantastic and add so much humour to the game. With Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, the tone of the game was truly set, whereas with the PS1 games, I feel like the developers were somewhat limited by the hardware. Now, the big elephant in the room here is that there's a new move introduced into Pro Skater 3 that literally changes the entire feel of the game. This move is the revert. Remember how Pro Skater 2 added the manual which allowed you to chain together grinds and flip tricks while moving across the floor without breaking your combo? The issue was that by going up a vert ramp, you had no way of continuing the combo once landing, meaning that grab tricks could only be used to end a combo, not in the middle of one. Well now, by going up a vert ramp and pressing R2, you can rotate your board and perform a trick called the revert. And by doing this and entering a manual straight after, you can continue your combo even after hitting a vert ramp. This means that you no longer have to stop your combo for anything besides straight up bailing. You can chain together grab tricks, grinds, flip tricks, manuals and reverts and never have to stop, and this creates this insane sense of flow and allows you to get some truly insane scores by mastering the controls. Going back to Pro Skater 1 or 2 after having this ability makes them feel stiff by comparison, and what helps Pro Skater 3 even more is that the controls are absolutely perfect. Pro Skater 2 drastically improved the controls from the first game, however there were still issues with the game sometimes dropping inputs if you were doing things quickly. But in Pro Skater 3 there wasn't a single time that this happened to me. I was in control of every movement and the game is perfectly accurate. Not only are the controls better and more responsive, but with the new hardware this game is running on, it also looks and runs infinitely better too. There's no longer texture popping or a fog effect to hide things loading in the background, and the game now runs at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second, something that not that many PS2 games can do. And this is seriously impressive given that the frame rate of the first two games was quite spotty, especially with the first game. There wasn't even one time the game dropped a single frame, and this combined with the silky and responsive controls and the overhauled graphics make this game easily the best in the series so far. The levels themselves are so much better than anything from the previous games, and the reason for this is that the theming is now much better, with less of a focus on being set in real-world locations and more so on a generalised place. So we've got Foundry, which is this fiery industrial setting, we've got Airport, which is, well, it's an airport, and this is distinct because it feels somewhat like the downhill levels featured in the first game, but it's so much better, offering more verticality by the way you can grind on the lights hanging from the ceiling, or you can take the more direct route on the ground, which is filled with conveyors to grind, ramps to jump over metal detectors, and bathrooms to skate through. Then we have Cruise Ship, which is unlocked by finishing the game for the first time, which is this multi-leveled stage, with an arboretum, museum, swimming pool and shopping area. The levels here are way more interesting to explore, featuring loads of secret areas and interactive elements, and Neversoft were at the height of the level design here. Everywhere has so many different things to skate on and different routes to take, and now you can revert, you can combo through every area of every level seamlessly. Plus, this game marks the first time that the levels have felt truly inhabited. In Pro Skater 1 and 2 there were maybe a few vehicles driving around at best, but in Pro Skater 3 we not only have a ton of vehicles in certain levels, but we also see pedestrians walking around and doing jobs, generally going about the day. Some of them even give you a bonus if you do tricks in front of them, and this makes these levels feel so much more dynamic. They did such a damn good job with this. Even the levels that are based on real places, like Canada or Tokyo, are more varied than the levels we saw in the previous games, with Canada being a snow-themed level and Tokyo being this futuristic city set at night with loads of neon everywhere. Even Skater Island, which at first comes across as a generic indoor skate park, opens up to reveal it's set on an island where a pirate ship is invading. There's a level of goofiness put into almost every level so that even the levels that feel grounded in reality are interesting to look at. This is the strongest selection of levels featured in any Tony Hawk game in my opinion, and it's yet to be topped. So the graphics, controls, frame rate, level design and level theming are all better than they've ever been before, and the Creator Skater is pretty much just as good as it was in Pro Skater 2. So, is there any way in which this game is worse than the previous ones? Pro Skater 2 featured a cash collectible where in order to fully complete the levels you had to find and collect all of the cash. This led to you having to fully explore every level and find the secret areas and basically see everything the game had to offer. Pro Skater 3 however ditches this cash system completely in favour of having floating stat points as its main collectible, as well as a secret deck hidden in every level too. Fundamentally this is the exact same mechanic as seen in Pro Skater 2, because the cash was used to upgrade your stats and buy decks anyway. But the new collectibles in Pro Skater 3 are much more scarce, only having 1 deck and 5 stats hidden in each level, which is nowhere near the amount of stuff that was hidden in Pro Skater 2. The reason I think they made this decision in Pro Skater 3 is because it's much better designed to be played again and again, whereas in Pro Skater 2 completing the game as more than one character felt like a bit of a chore. In Pro Skater 3 they actually kept it interesting by having the stat points and hidden deck collectibles change places depending on which character you're using. The issue with this is that not every single character has their own position for the collectibles, and there's actually only 3 set positions for everything. It would have been super interesting if they were different for every character, but obviously I guess there's only so many places you can hide stuff. Another thing is that depending on if you're playing as a vert character or a street character, the trick objectives will be different in every level. So for example in Foundry, it's either to 50-50 grind TC's rail or cannonball grab over a half pipe. This again works to make repeat playthroughs more interesting. Then there's also the fact that I found Pro Skater 3 to be much quicker to complete than the previous games, but that could be because I'm far more used to Pro Skater 3 and know the levels pretty much inside out, whereas I'm a bit less familiar with the levels from the first and second games. I would have actually appreciated a harder difficulty to be honest, because the game never asks for a high enough score goal and I didn't even need to try in order to complete any of them. Plus, just like with Pro Skater 1 and 2, you're never required to get very good scores on the early levels, which is a shame because that means they never get a chance to showcase their amazing level design to its fullest. I feel like upon playing the game with a second character, the levels should have reversed, asking for low scores on what would have been the last level and high scores on what would have been the first level. Or, you know, just ask for high scores on every level instead. Just like with Pro Skater 2, by finishing the game multiple times, you'll unlock a new reward. These range from new characters, new levels, and new cheats. The genius here is that by unlocking the new characters and cheats, it makes you want to play through the game one more time to see what the characters and cheats do, making the game's rewards add to the replayability on top of the collectibles changing positions and the objectives swapping out with the vert and street types. While the second game also unlocked things for finishing the game multiple times, the rewards this time are much more numerous and unlocked in a much better order, making it much more satisfying going through it again and again. There's absolutely loads of unlockable characters here, ranging from returning ones like Private Carrera and Officer Dick, to brand new ones based on existing franchises like Darth Maul from Star Wars and Wolverine from X-Men. But then we have more original characters, like Ollie the Magic Bum, who was an NPC character in the second game, the Demoness, who, as her name suggests, is a demon sent from the depths of hell to skate upon Earth. There's Kelly Slater, who's a pro surfer who starred in their own Pro Skater spin-off, imaginatively titled Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer. And you can even play as the Neversoft eyeball featured in the developer's logo, which is just incredible. In the PC version of the game, you even unlock friggin' Doom Guy from the Doom games, which, to be honest, I really wish was in the PS2 version. The unlockable levels, besides Cruise Ship, are all recreated from Pro Skater 1, and while this is really cool being able to play Warehouse, Roswell and Burnside with manuals and reverts, this really shows how much better the levels in Pro Skater 3 are, because next to those, the returning levels feel kinda lame and lacking in size and creativity. At least Roswell still has our good friend the alien, who's still having a bit of a lie down, so there's that. The Xbox version of the game had another original level called Oil Rig, and the PS1 and N64 versions had a level called Downhill, so it's a bit of a shame that these aren't in the PS2 version. Speaking of the PS1 version of the game, if you played this as a kid instead of the PS2 version, then I feel very sorry for you, because this is an inferior version in literally every single way. Don't even bother with this, it might as well not exist. Any version from the 6th generation of consoles is the way to go. Oh yeah, another thing that Pro Skater 3 improves is in the way that there's now a grind meter rather than having to use the skater's animation to balance yourself. Which is great because it makes it a lot easier to judge, but also makes it more uniform with the lip tricks and manuals, which also have balance meters. There's also now a tutorial mode accessible from the main menu, which is great because it not only explains the mechanics in an easy to understand way, featuring the voice of Tony Hawk himself, but it also allows you to try out each of the things you're told about rather than just explaining it to you like a game manual would. This is a great thing to have here because the Pro Skater games are getting more and more complicated with each game, and if this was your first one, it would be a lot to take in. There was even an online mode featured in the game, making this the very first PS2 game to ever have online play. But with the servers having been taken offline, I can't comment on how this actually works. But how impressive is it that an early PS2 title even had this at one point? This would have added a lot of content to the game, and it was way ahead of its time. I didn't even have the internet when this game came out, for God's sake. The other modes featured in the game are all returning ones from Pro Skater 2. So firstly we have the Park Editor mode, where you can build your own skate park and then share them by saving them to memory cards. This is even better than it was in Pro Skater 2, having much easier to navigate menus and more objects to place in the parks as well. I will say though, one aspect in which this is worse is that it has slightly less themes to choose from to make your park look distinct. But in every other way, this is better, and once again it features a selection of pre-made parks to skate around in for inspiration too. The 2-player mode features almost all of the modes from the previous games, including Trick Attack, Graffiti, Horse, and Free Skate. Tag from Pro Skater 2 has now been changed slightly and renamed Slap, and I would actually say that this is slightly worse now. Rather than in Tag where one person is it, and then shown the location of the other player with an arrow and has to catch up to them and hit them, in Slap it's more simple and neither player is it, and you aren't told where the opponent is, and it's just a matter of whoever gets the most hits wins. With the levels being much bigger in Pro Skater 3, an arrow showing the location of the opponent would have been nice. But I think the reason this game mode was changed is because of the new mode, which is actually a little bit more similar to the original Tag from Pro Skater 2. This new mode is King of the Hill, and it's also quite similar to Tag, but instead of randomly being designated as it, each player races to a crown collectible and upon getting it has the speed greatly reduced. But the longer they hold the crown for, the more their timer goes up, and upon reaching a set time, they win. The opponent, meanwhile, still moves at full speed and has to hit into the person with the crown and steal it off of them, stopping their opponent's clock and starting their own. They can also see where their opposition is with an arrow, giving away the location. So while Slap is basically a worse version of Tag, King of the Hill is a much better version of Tag, so I guess it balances out. I would have appreciated a brand new multiplayer mode, but at this point all of the obvious stuff has been done and now it's a matter of refining it. Of course we also have the free skate and single session modes return in Pro Skater 3, but I never normally play these because I already know the levels inside out, so there's not much point for me personally. Still, they're nice to have, and if you just want to go for a high score, or you want to explore the levels with no time restriction, then the options are there for you to do so. A weird oversight is that just like with Pro Skater 2, you can view all of your tricks and customize them, this time earning new special trick slots for each character by completing all of the goals in a level. But for some reason you can't view your grind trick combinations, and one of the objectives in Cruise Ship is to do a double tap trick where you press up twice and then grind, rather than just pressing up a single time. But my point is, with this being a bit more complicated and having an actual objective tied to it, you'd think you'd be able to see how to do it on the trick list, but you can't. That pretty much sums up Pro Skater 3. It's basically a much more refined Pro Skater 2, with better controls, better graphics, more replayability, better level designs and theming, and, perhaps most importantly, the ability to revert. It's not just a little bit better than the previous games in the series, it's a significant leap ahead in quality, and it almost makes the other games look bad by comparison, and they're good games, so that should tell you how good this one is. I'm putting Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 right at the top of the series ranking. While Pro Skater 2 improved on every single element of Pro Skater 1, making me call it one of the best game sequels ever made, Pro Skater 3 does exactly the same thing to Pro Skater 2, making it yet again one of the best game sequels ever made. And this time, I would even go as far as to say that this is one of the best games ever made generally. And I'm not just some random guy saying this either. A lot of people consider this game to be one of the best ever made. In fact, on Metacritic, this is the highest rated PS2 game of all time. So if that doesn't tell you how great this is, I don't know what will. While Pro Skater 3 is short and I would have loved to have seen more original levels, it has a pretty decent replay system to incentivize repeat playthroughs, but on top of that, you're gonna want to play it again regardless, just for fun because of how good it is. The completion rewards just add to that. Some more valid criticisms are that the game is maybe a bit too easy and could have done with a hard difficulty making you get higher scores. Unlike Pro Skater 2, there's no gap list to complete, which is a bit weird because it's not like the game doesn't feature gaps. It's just that there's no list of them to complete this time, giving you a bit less to do. Plus, the Creator Skater customization options could have been much better. There's not very many options here, and while you can be a female skater now, there's still no clothes to unlock, and you're quite limited with what you can do here. Maybe the cash collectible from Pro Skater 2 should have returned and been used to buy new clothes. I think that would have been cool. But other than those small things, this is an absolutely fantastic game and a must play for anyone who is in any way into video games. The single player is rewarding and fun to blast through in a short sit-in, while also incentivizing repeat playthroughs, giving the game more to dive into for those looking to play it for a longer time. The multiplayer is better than ever, and unlike in the previous games, the horse game mode actually has background music. Because in Pro Skater 1 and 2, it couldn't play music in this mode for some reason. Actually, I've not even spoken about the soundtrack, have I? It's probably my favourite Tony Hawk soundtrack with some really great tracks, like the previously mentioned Ace of Spades by Motorhead, but also 96 Quite Bitter Beans by CKY, If You Must by Del the Funky Homo Sapien, I'm Destroying the World by Guttermouth, I'm a Swing It by House of Pain, and so many others that I absolutely love. This game has the perfect mix of hip-hop, punk, and rock, and it's just great all around. Plus, with the much greater number of songs featured in this game, it even has a track list where you can customize which songs are playing, which is an awesome touch. It's like every single little element in this game had so much thought put into it, from the music to the menus, and of course, the actual gameplay. It's an incredibly well-produced game that holds up just as well today as it did when it came out. If you've not played this, play it right now. I can't recommend it enough. Plus, if you've gone through the whole game and you still want more, then number 1, there's just no pleasing you, and number 2, there's a demo of Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder tucked away in the game's menu for you to enjoy. This is cool because not only is the demo 2-player and quite a lot of fun, but it harkens back to how there was a demo for Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX in Pro Skater 2's menu. It's like one big extreme sports family. And that's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, an overall incredible game, and this is where I feel that Neversoft truly perfected the arcade style of gameplay from the first Pro Skater. I don't even think it's possible to improve the game anymore while still using this same gameplay structure. Which is why, with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, they changed this structure dramatically, giving us a game with similar feeling controls, but a much different single player experience. So join me next time as we take a look at it and see what it's all about. For now, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to see more stuff like this coming soon, and leave a comment down below letting me know what you think to Pro Skater 3. And, until the next video, bye!